What's up everyone, today we're here for my round 11 AFL tips and predictions. Honestly, round 10. What can I say? It was an absolute travesty at the end. You guys don't need to continue reminding me. I know the Saints suck. I know we lost to West Coast. Let's just move on. So if this video is late, maybe it's because I'm still trying to process the loss. Tipping wasn't great for a lot of people, and we'll go through and review my tips. Now, I actually started off really well. I got Gold Coast by 10 points was my margin. They won by 8, so I was only off by 2. And then I set Sydney by 15. Now, I know margin doesn't matter for the second game, but I got the two margins really good. Started strong, Sydney and Gold Coast. I went Adelaide in the upset, and they could have won, but they didn't win. I didn't really watch much footy on the Saturday, so I couldn't really get a massive read on the games. Geelong dismantled, put Adelaide. Now, this one was a bit of a surprising result given the margin, but this was even more surprising. GWS, what is going on? What's so inconsistent about them? Freo went to NG to pick up their first win. I got my second tip wrong. The Bulldogs beat the Bombers. In fact, no, they didn't beat the Bombers. Sorry. The Bulldogs smashed the Bombers. North Melbourne got the win over Richmond. I got that tip right. And then two upsets. Brisbane lost to Melbourne and St Kilda lost to West Coast. So, yeah, that's an absolute travesty. It's put me in my place big time. And, yeah, a lot of people have been giving me crap for it. Now, tipping wasn't great for a lot of people this week. Let's go through to see who is overall in the lead. And we have Owen 32 once again. He got a 5, so he's gone down a spot. He's got a score of 81. We've got a bunch of people on 79 with the margin being the difference. So, Rob, Sumit Batani, Kathy Foden, and Fernando Fazio getting another shout out. Round 10, we didn't get a single person getting a perfect score. I'm certainly not using the Joker. Noah Raider using his Joker, getting a best score with a margin of 0 and 6 right. Sam Lee, Lamb Monkey, Go Pies, and Oscar 2. So not a great week for the Joker. I'll be actually using my Joker for round 11 because I'll tell you why it's important to use the Joker before the buys. Anyone to get a perfect score, let's go through and have a look. And it really wasn't the case at all. No one got a perfect score. Congratulations to Henry Cunn. He got a score of 8 with a margin of 5. He was certainly the best of the best. Geordie Boy got a margin of 0 with a 7. And Bontford Brownlow, Jakey Boutel, and Kakamano 7 with a few others got a 7 and a margin of 2. But this is the week I'll be using my Joker because remember, at the end of round 12, I'll be giving away a $100 cash prize to whoever is currently leading the comp. So if you think that you're a chance of maybe being in the lead in the middle part of the year, but maybe not the end, join the comp down below if you haven't already. And then when you do, use your Joker, do it before the buy rounds, do it for round 11, and maybe you'll have a chance of getting up in the rankings. Let's see how my big calls went for round 10, obviously requiring the 3. We start things off on the Friday night, and I said in the Sydney v Carlton game that the Swans would win after trailing at 3/4 time, and I got that one bang on, so I was really happy with that one. Then in the Essendon v Western Bulldogs game, I said that after halftime the margin would not go under 30. I predicted a big smashing, and that is exactly what happened. The Bulldogs absolutely obliterated Essendon, and I got my second one right. And needing one more to avoid the punishment, of course it had to be in the last game, and it was the West Coast and Kilda game. I said the Eagles would win 2 or more quarters, and to my demise, in a way I'm happy, they did win 2 or more. I think they ended up winning 3/4 of footy. So I do get to avoid a punishment for this week. Obviously, I still have a bunch to do. But this week, it's basically a gather round of Victoria. There are 7 games of Victoria, and I'll be heading to all of them. So I'll definitely have the opportunity to complete a couple of punishments. And just like I did last year with the travel video, I've got a big video coming where I'll be going to all 7 games, completing various challenges. And, you know, you'll find out when I do the video. So that'll be all fun. But yeah, I'll be completing a few of my punishments there. I won't be completing this one, which is the one with the most likes from last week. Sorry, Quady, but you're not getting another one most liked this week. It was to hide in Bunnings as long as you can before getting kicked out, and you must make some sort of fort on the shelf. So luckily, I don't have to do that because I don't really like doing the ones that could get me into trouble. Also, real quickly, we'll take a look at the fantasy scores. And Jacob does fantasies back in number 1 in the overall rankings. Obviously, still in my comp. Lucas R, Evan M, Mason R, and Wilson Q ran at the top 5. I didn't have a great week. I did not have a great week last week. I went down in the rankings for the first time in a while, and I've gone down a few spots in my leaderboard, in my comp, with 72 now, 67 last week. So pretty annoyed. And now that Horn France is out and maybe McRae might be out, it's not good. It's not looking good for fantasy heading into the buys. Voting is now also open for round 10 in the Cardi Medal. And like every week, you have the opportunity to vote for your 3-1 best plays of every game. And at the end of the season, kind of like Brownlow, I'll be doing a live stream going through which player is the best of the season voted by you guys. So the more people we get, the better it is. Vote down below. We have now less than 50% of the people who do watch the channel who are actually subscribed. We want to build to 60k this year. The next goal is 53k. So go and hit that subscribe button. Let's build up the numbers and let's get into the the round 11 tips. Alrighty guys, let's start off with a Thursday night game. We've got Geelong taking on the Western Bulldogs at GMHBA. This is going to be one of the biggest blockbusters of the entire year, and I will be heading to this one. So it's actually going to be the third consecutive new stadium in a row that I'll be attending. We had Ninja, TO, and now GMHBA. I've been to GMHBA before, but not this year. And this is set to be an absolute all-time game. You can really make the argument for the Dogs this season that they're probably the form team right now in the competition. We saw on the weekend against the Bombers that they absolutely just belted them. From the first bounce, it was 43-3 at quarter time. I expected them to dominate, but to the degree they did, it was just a phenomenal performance. They scored 82 from turnovers, and they basically smashed the Bombers in every major stat. Dale recorded 49 disposals. I mean, he's in some elite All-Australian form. Matt Kennedy, he's in All-Australian form almost as well. Recruit of the year. Love that I traded him into my fantasy team. And honestly, I think I'd do the same thing if I was watching. Libba was awesome. He's in great form. The Bonds just continuing to play great footy. And Sanders was a lead as well. But I think the Dogs right now, they're every chance of beating any side in the comp. They're now the best percentage in the league. And they've been beating up on some decent teams in the comp away from home. They're versing Cats though at GMHBA. And it's obviously a massive test in footy. It's very hard to beat Geelong at GMHBA. But they are gettable. They have lost there before this year. They did obliterate Port Adelaide last week. I think Port Adelaide are kind of just in the mud right now, honestly. They're just really, really crap. And they breathed past them, particularly after half-time. Jesse kicked 7 goals, 5 of them being in that last quarter. And Ollie Dempsey, you've got to give him credit. As a winger, he's kicked 17 goals. That is just elite. He is in some elite form right now. I think this will be a battle in midfield. Bailey Smith obviously versing against his old side. Now, there's a chance he might not be playing this one, which would certainly skew my tip towards the Dogs. No Danger is also going to be a big blow. I know it's only for a couple of weeks, but he is that guy that can change games up forward and kick a few goals. So because of that, I think with the form the Dogs are in and they've been able to beat the Cats at GMHBA before, give me the Dogs. I'm going to go the Dogs in a big game of footy by 4 points on a Thursday. My big call is at Matt Kennedy. He's going to have 30 more touches and 2 or more goals. Next up, we do have on the Friday night, we have the dream time at the G between Essendon and Richmond. Now, this could probably be one of the more meaningless dream time fixtures we've seen in a while, given sort of where both of these sides are at and the form that the Bombers are in especially. Now, this is the first one on the Friday night as well, and I think most likely it's due to the fact that the deal that the KO have with the AFL not having free-to-wear games, you sort of have to have this game on a Friday night because you've got to have dream time of the G on a Friday night. The Bombers, wow, they are lucky that their 91-point loss against the Bulldogs on Saturday was overshadowed by St Kilda's shit-house loss against the Eagles. I watched bits and pieces of this game, when I got the chance to, and man, geez, their skills are abysmal. Like, honestly, it was probably Merritt's worst game in years as well. I feel like the only one that could probably hold their head up high was like a Xavier Dersma. He actually had a decent game, but the rest of the squad, just hang your heads in shame. That was an embarrassing effort, and you guys somehow still have a positive win-loss record with a percentage of 81.2. I mean, come on. That is pathetic. Richmond, they could beat them here. They're certainly vulnerable right now. The Bombers, the Tigers haven't been easy beats this season. I mean, they've obviously had a few bad games, but for the most part, they've been relatively competitive in their recent performances. In such a congested game and a lot of stoppages, the Tigers just couldn't get that final goal. But they still battled hard against a North side that were fighting and competing to get their first win since round 2. Sam Lawler had one of his best games all year, and then Curvis was big in the ruck against Cherry, although he probably was still a bit better, Cherry. And Seth Campbell, give him a shout out. He had a really good game up forward, and he's one of the more underrated small forwards in the league. I think if the Bombers aren't careful, Richmond could certainly win here. It's dream time. It is a Bombers home game, but it doesn't really matter. I remember in the Anzac Day Eve game, I tipped Richmond and Melbourne won, and I think this is sort of a similar situation. Essendon is still the better team. Essendon should respond after last week. And the Bombers always seem to find a way to always beat these really rubbish teams, even if they're unconvincing. So they could honestly be in the 8 at the end of this round, the Bombers, as much as they don't deserve to. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to tip the Bombers by 20 points. And I'm going to say my big call, Seth Campbell does another backflip. Alrighty, we head to the Saturday games, and we've got 3 games in Melbourne. We kick things off at Marvel Stadium with the first of 2 double headers. This is something we've probably never seen before, not at Marvel Stadium. Carlton v GWS, I think this is a proper 50-50 game, because honestly, it's very hard to get a read on any clubs this season, especially the Giants. Now, I didn't really watch this game. I was playing footy myself, but I'm just honestly looking at the result. I'm just figuring, like, how do they let Fremantle walk over them so easily, given how poor they've been? The Giants are such a hot and cold side. They can either be really good one week and then just extremely poor the next week. They're so inconsistent, and they've been in some really bad form. That Geelong game where they won last week was a bit of an anomaly. I mean, they probably should have tagged Sarong. He absolutely dominated this game, and normally when sides find a way to tag Sarong, they seem to stop his influence, and they seem to win themselves. But I don't know if they're a legitimate side or if they're going to have an average season. Will they even show up against Carlton? Who knows? Carlton, they're also really hit or miss as well. I mean, I haven't really got a lot of faith in them, but I'll probably have a bit more faith in them, especially when they play in Melbourne. They've been good in Melbourne, but they've been bad interstate over the last 5-6 weeks. And I think they certainly should have beat the Swans on the Friday night. They were in front for the first 3 quarters, but once again crumbled under that SCG pressure, and their form at the SCG now is a real concern. Really anywhere interstate, they lost that game, and disappointing for Carlton, but their season still could be back on track if they beat the Giants here, and I think that they will get over the line. I think the atmosphere of their fans will do enough. At home, I will be going to this game as well, and I actually want Carlton to win more than the Giants for some reason, even though I like the Giants more. I'm going to say the Blues win this in a good game of footy by 9 points. My big call that Nick Haynes and Jack Silvani combined for 16 or more marks. Next up on the twilight fixture at the MCG, Hawthorn taking on Brisbane. I'll be heading straight from Marvel Stadium to this game, and it should be a pretty good game between two sides. I think that'll be up there in the top 4. Hawthorn last week had it really tough in the trying conditions in Darwin. It was a 5-day break, and I didn't think they had a bad outing at all. They had outs heading into it. No Gunston, no Bruce, no Lloyd Meek, and I think they had another out if I'm not mistaken, but they didn't give up and they kept on fighting in conditions that weren't the best that suited Gold Coast. The Suns just overall had a bit more experience, but shout out to Nick Watson. He was really good, and I thought Jai Newcombe in the midfield really proved his worth. The Lions also, they can't really be proud of their efforts against the D's with their loss. They're at home and they should be beating a side like Melbourne, who have been, for the most part, a pretty poor side. Brisbane have been a pretty big letdown so far this season. They're still second on the ladder, and I know they're second, but I feel like they haven't been that great. I really don't feel like they have been. And in terms of form, they drew against North, they lost against Melbourne at home, and they only just beat the Suns when they were the much better side. I don't know. I don't really know where Brisbane are at, but again, they have a chance at winning this game. I just feel like with the way they played last week, they conceded 6 of the last 8 goals, and it looked like they kind of just gave up. They didn't have any answers, and Melbourne were just way too strong in that last quarter. They should be playing more convincing footy, but they're up against a Hawthorn side who are in some pretty decent form, and their form against Hawthorn hasn't been great. Brisbane have lost their last 5 against the Hawks, and especially at the MCG, Brisbane aren't the greatest there. So, Brisbane are a very, very good side, and they very much could win this game. But I think Hawthorn, honestly, they'll get the win. They just seem to get the job done in these sort of fixtures, and I'm going to say the Hawks win quite convincingly at the end. I'm going to go 23 points with my big call, Nick Watson. He's in some good form, and I think he's going to kick 4 goals. Next up on the Saturday night, you go from the MCG back to Marvel because we have a double header, and we finish things off with North Melbourne and Collingwood at Marvel Stadium. Now, North Melbourne last week, they finally got their first win since round 2, and it was a deserving win. They played pretty solid footy at times, but there were also times where they let a few lapses in play go, like Richmond had a lot of control, especially in that second quarter. They had a convincing first quarter. They finally won that first quarter, and that might be the monkey off the back. They can get them to start games decently in the next few weeks. Collingwood right now, though, they are the best side in the comp, so North Melbourne, whilst they've been in some good form the last month of footy, this is the biggest test, really, to beat the Pies, even though it is at the home ground at Marvel. Yeah, the Pies, I feel like they're certainly the best side still in the competition. They were too good for the Crows defensively. The Crows put up a good fight, but the Pies, they basically led all game. Now, they do have a few outs possibly heading into this one. Elliott might not be playing. He's currently sick. Houston, not sure about that. And Darcy Moore as well as I'm pretty sure Lockie Schultz. Overall, though, I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference because you look at it on paper and you go, all right, it's first v 17th. Collingwood are going to get a win, you would think. Paul Curtis is back for North, though, this week, so that could help something up forward. And I think North Melbourne as well, they're going to be competitive, I feel, because they actually performed decent against the Pies. We all remember the game last year. That was an absolute belter. But can I really see a world where they'll actually win? Collingwood aren't going to let that happen, I wouldn't think. It's going to be a high-scoring game, I reckon, even though the Pies are one of the best sides defensively in the competition. But I'm going to go Collingwood to win this by 29 points. With a big call, there'll be 18 or more goals in any half. Now, the first game away from Victoria, we head to Optus Stadium for the 8:10 p.m. clash between Fremantle and Port Adelaide. And I think after the games last week, I think I know who I'm going to be tipping. Now, Fremantle, they heavily revived their season last week with their first win at NG Stadium against the Giants. Now, I was playing footy whilst this game was happening, so I didn't get to watch any of it, but I checked the scores and went, what the hell? How have the Dockers done this? But for the Dockers, it goes to show what they're really capable of at their best with their list, because everyone said that the Dockers were going to be that side to climb this year. They haven't proved it yet. They were really poor against the Saints. They were pretty poor against the Pies. Finally a good game. Finally Shai Bolton got going. He had his best game for his new club, and hopefully his form continues for them and they can make a bit of a rise up the ladder. Port Adelaide, though, there is absolutely nothing to be positive about for the Power. There is a lot of issues going on right now at the club. They're sort of just stinking up at the moment. You sort of in a way feel bad for Ken Hinkley because he knows that he's out the door. They may as well just let Cast finish the rest of the year. Because I have no faith at all in the Power. They're not going to make finals this year. They're going to have a bottom 6 year, you would think. They were outscored entirely by Jeremy Cameron. One player. That is pathetic. And they had a terrible forward 50 conversion. I think only scoring 11% in terms of goals from their inside 50s. They're wasting a fairly talented list. And after making a few prelims in the last few years, they are looking to be finishing bottom 6 with the way they're playing right now. No Horn France as well gives them even less of a chance to win. He's going to be out for a bit with a hamstring injury. So, I don't know. Like, are you going to really give Port much of a chance? I know they beat them last year at Optus, but surely the Dockers at home, even if they don't play their best footy, I just don't think the Power are going to win. And I think the Dockers get a big one. Big win by 34 points with a big call, Fremantle lead for the entire game. Heading out to Sunday, and we have the only other game outside of Victoria between Adelaide and West Coast, the Sunday 1:10 p.m. game. Adelaide once again fell short against Collingwood, but they competed hard. But now that streak is over 10 in a row that the Pies have beaten them again. So it's always just been a close game. They never seem to do enough. But ultimately, I'd say they'd have themselves to blame. They had poor shots on goal late, and I think this week they should bounce back, certainly against West Coast. Now, we have to give credit to West Coast. I don't want to do that because I'm just sick of talking about this game given the last couple of days, but geez, they were good. They wanted to win, and I think it would have been a bit of a mixture of A, they seem to always perform at home in Indigenous round, B, they had a really tough loss last week against Richmond. They would have been angry and wanted to respond, and C, the passing of Adam Selwood, I think they certainly would have wanted to get up for him, and they did. So I'm not angry at that. I'm just, obviously angry still that they beat us. Not really going to talk too much about the game. They were just quicker than us, faster than us. And they looked hungry for the footy. They were really good. Even though I'm talking the Eagles up a bit, they're still playing against Adelaide away from home. Adelaide are a really tough side to beat there, and I think they're going to find it a lot more difficult because Adelaide are a better side than St Kilda right now. And I think the Crows should respond back hard with a win, and I think they're going to win by around 10 goals. So let's go Adelaide by 60 points with my big call. Adelaide record 150 or more points. Next up, we head to the MCG, and we have Melbourne take on Sydney. Sorry, Melbourne fans, but I think maybe I've actually lost that scarf. But you know what? I'll be heading to this one, and I'll be wanting Melbourne to probably win. So I might purchase a new scarf, get the old one out, the new one in. But this game, let's be honest with you, it's a hard one. It's a really hard one to tip. I don't know who's going to win this game. Melbourne have somehow turned their season around after being, I think they were 0-5, and now they've won 4 of the last 5 games, and they weren't even that bad against Hawthorn. I know they beat some soft kill wins, but they beat Freo, and they've now beaten Brisbane, so they're actually pretty decent sides. And Track, Clary, Gawn, they're back in form. Melksham played a ripper game. And speaking of ripper games, though, for the Swans, Isaac Heaney, he could have kicked 7. He genuinely could have kicked 7. 2 goals, 5, 38 disposals, I think it was. He had his best game of the year, and he's back in good form. So that 3-quarter turnaround from the Swans was really impressive. They kicked 5-2. They shut the game down. The Blues were bad, but the Swans, you got to give them credit. I still don't think the Swans are going to be a final side this year. And if they are, they're going to need to beat the Demons. It's as simple as that. If the D's win here, I think they can maybe try to see if they can play finals. I still think it's a bit of a stretch for them. I don't know. I genuinely don't know how to tip. But I just feel like while Sydney are the better side, I think you got to back in the D's at home. They've been a good side of the MCG. Back in that home club. And I'm going to go the D's by 10 points. And I think they're going to kick 5 more goals in that last quarter. Final game of the round. And this is a proper 4:40 p.m. Sunday game. We've got St Kilda taking on Gold Coast. After last week, it wouldn't surprise me if there's 0 fans at the ground. Like, genuinely, who is going to want to watch this game if you're a St Kilda fan after last week? Again, I can talk about how bad we were, how lazy our efforts were, how just weak we were in the contest. We were second to the footy a lot of the time. We didn't have the run. We didn't really get much going. Jack Higgins, Rowan Marshall, Jack Sinclair. You can, hold your heads up high. The rest of you better train hard this week because, the Suns are in some really good form. And this could be one of those games where it's either close and we win, or the Suns win by 60. I can't see us smashing the Suns right now, given how good they're in right now. They're in some dominant form. They're third on the ladder. They're playing the best footy they've ever played. Part of me, in a way, I know it sounds so stupid, part of me kind of wants them to win this game because then it might almost just solidify a final spot. But it's the Saints. Obviously, I still deep down want us to win. Yeah, look, the Suns, they were the better side against the Hawks and Darwin. It was a really good game of footy, but they had some contributors up forward. Like Ben Long, what a season he's having. He's kicked 4. Anderson was phenomenal as well up forward as well. So they're having some really, and Noble, we haven't really credited how underrated of a season John Noble's having. He's been probably alongside Matt Kennedy, the 2 best recruits of the season so far. This is going to be not as hard of a tip for some as I think for myself. The Saints have a really good form record over the Suns. They haven't lost a game at Marvel there since 2014, and I think that was the only time we lost there when we finished bottom. So I think the Suns, I know the Suns is probably the best they've been in their history, and the Saints are in some poor form. We play our best footy at Marvel, and I think I could see maybe some sort of a turnaround, although in saying that, this is a good chance where the streak most likely gets broken. And now Jack McRae's out for 2 to 3 weeks. So maybe I do tip the Suns. But you know what? I have to back in the Saints. If I'm going to get up in the footy tipping ladder, I've got to go a couple upsets. And I think the Saints can honestly win this game. I'm cheering them on in the cheer squad. Why not back them in? If they lose, well, fuck. I'll be pissed. But let's go the Saints to win another close one like last week by 2. Yes, you guys probably think I'm ludicrous for doing this, but no, I actually think the Saints can win because the Suns with Dimmer aren't really a good side at Marble at all. So give me the Saints by 2, and I think Jack Higgins and Ben Long will combine it for 7 or more goals. And on that note, we wrap things up for another round of footy tips in round 11. I'll try to start getting some punishments done next week because I'll be going to 7 games this week, and I'll be getting a lot of content done. Like tomorrow or the next day, I'll definitely be getting out my first ever game of Div 12 Resies. I'll be getting the Indigenous Guernsey rankings out as well. So lots of content coming. I've been a busy man over the last few weeks. So if you've been enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button, like, put your tips down below, and big calls. And we'll see you soon for some more content.